Alrighty, everybody, here we go. So surprise, we're doing a foot reading video. And let's jump right into it because there is a lot to talk about in this video. So let me share my screen real quick. Full screen. Yay! Okay. So this foot reading video is based on actually a series of feet that I have recently received. Just as a reminder, if you ever want to send in pictures of your feet for me to just give a quick read, or if you would like to have a appointment with me that you would like your feet read, you can always reach out via my website or email sam@footwhisperer.com or footwhisperer.com. But let me talk a little bit about why these feet and why now. So this was a challenge that I had initiated with my foot reading and reflexology online community, the Frock group on Facebook. I had posted these pictures in the group and gave everybody the ultimatum that if they were interested in becoming foot readers, that it was in their best interest to give these feet a read, tell me what they thought, and basically give me the top 3 markers that they saw, as well as their physical and internal meanings. So this is the follow-up video for that, and I'm going to share a couple different things in relation to these feet. So I'm going to share what I see, as well as what I would say and not say to a client. This is really important. So if these feet were to walk into the institute, what would I say? What would I not say? In my book, Foot Reading, a Reflexology Primer on Foot Assessment, I talk about the importance of saying what you see, but there are a couple things in these feet that I personally would not bring up during a session, and I will tell you why during this video. Also, what to do about it. And this is something that I've had to learn from my clients is, it's great to see the feet and to be able to break somebody down by the cracks and crevices and the way that the toes lean and the shape of their arch and all that jazz. But what do you do about it? Like, once you find a marker, how do you fix it? And we're going to talk about that in terms of methods of balancing as well. So let's talk about these feet. First and foremost, I have a couple caveats. Let's talk about 2 things that I would not tell the client and why I would not tell the client these things right off the bat. So first and foremost, do you see the bump? Yes. So it is on the left side. This is the bunion area. This is very, very, very tiny, tiny, tiny little bunion. Not really significant in the least, but it is showing prominently. You can also see a little bit of a bump developing on the right side, but not as present. This is just kind of like the tip of the iceberg of emotional stress. So it's a marker that I see very commonly when somebody has undergone a stressor that is still lingering, but not really severe. Like if it was bad, we'd have full-blown bunion action going on. But it's very much just tip of the iceberg kind of stuff. So nothing too crazy, but definitely something that I would take note of as a foot reader, not something I would really bring up and tell the client and say, well, you kind of have maybe this sign of a little bit of emotional stress. That makes me seem like I don't know what I'm talking about, but it is a validating marker that we will come back to as we reference the other things that I've seen in the feet. So second thing to be aware of that I would not tell the client is notice how the 3rd, 4th, and 5th toes on the left foot are ducking. And some of my students picked up on that, but they are not necessarily ducking on the right. They are a little bit clawed, or on the left rather. They are a little bit clawed on the left, but as far as the right side, you can definitely tell that there's a difference. And this is a sign of mental stress in the past. So basically what has happened is the mind has somewhat shut down or locked down, and that locking down in the past has now released, but it's been transformed into current emotional stress and pressure. So I mean, that's something that is a little bit more intricate, a little bit more timeline focused, and something that I would just at first blush not necessarily bring up during a conversation, but I would keep it in mind as validating markers as we go through the rest of what I've seen, especially on the plantar surface, because this is some really good stuff. But as you can see, like, there are no really strong markings on the dorsal aspect. Everything is pretty narrow, kind of cut and dry. Like, everything's pretty smooth, except for these two things. So I just wanted to throw those out there before we jump in. Okay, so why I wouldn't say it. Bringing up past stress can be really difficult during a consultation. So if a client comes in and they have a lot of baggage, is the best way to say it, and there's no real easy way to kind of pop that bubble without popping the bubble. It's difficult with a client who may be a little bit more results focused, maybe already is experiencing a lot of stress, to bring up the kind of history that you're seeing in the feet. So just making sure that if you do find yourself in that situation where you're encountering multiple markers of stress, just be a little bit more gentle, a little bit more kind, because that is very present in the feet that we're seeing thus far and will be extremely validated as we go through. So these two markers aren't really the root cause. So they're symptoms, not really too intense. They're just kind of in the background. They give us an idea that stress has been present, it is being processed, but we still don't know what kind of stress, and they aren't dramatic enough markers for me to really say this is the issue or this area is really even being affected. So when you're giving a foot reading consultation, it's always important to focus on the root cause, and these two things are not necessarily the root cause. Then focus on actionable present steps. So the thing about these markers as well is that they show stress has been like incurred, but also it's being processed. So it's not like you need to tell somebody, hey, you're stressed. Like, they know that, okay? So focusing on the actionable present is really something to keep in mind. Like, unless it's serving the client moving from point A to point B, I don't necessarily bring it up. We found signs of stress, but we still don't know why the stress was there in the first place. So I would much rather focus on the root cause and the actionable present, like what they can do to rectify that stress load in the immediate kind of present moment, instead of just harping on the fact that it happened. Okay, so now let's take a crack at the plantar surfaces of the feet. This is where we're seeing a lot of stuff in these feet. In previous videos, we've kind of mixed it up. Sometimes there have been a lot of dorsal markers, sometimes a lot of plantar markers. Here, everything is plantar in this video. So let's kind of crack the code. So the three markers, first and foremost, this is an air foot. And for those of you that have read the book, you know what I'm talking about. For those of you who have not experienced the work, we divide the constitution of a particular foot and a particular person and a particular body into one of the four elements: earth, air, fire, and water. Air is associated with the physical characteristics of thinness. We can also see a little bit of excess length, so a little bit of fire in the feet as well as kind of tinges of redness. But this is definitely an air foot, meaning that this person is prone to highs and lows in terms of energetic spikes and crashes. We can see a lot of lining here indicating fatigue. They tend to be a little bit on the anemic side. They tend to be very mentally focused. They tend to be very quick with their words. They tend to be very bubbly. All of the things that we would associate with a quote-unquote air constitution. This is the foot that really is that embodiment of the air element. Now, the reason why this is not necessarily an individual marker, but is more of a broad constitutional element that I really wanted to bring to the surface, and why this is so important, is because it lays the foundation for the client to understand maybe their pitfalls, where their body tends to be weakest, and how to nourish those weaknesses appropriately. So sometimes it's really important during a foot reading consultation to go super broad and not overload the client with too much terminology and nuance meanings. Here we can see this person fits into a specific category. They tend to not pack on fat. They tend to be very thin. They tend to have a very light constitution. They tend to have, like I said, ups and downs in everything, energy levels as well as hormones. Their issues also tend to come and go really frequently. So just in terms of timeline, like They'll have an issue on Monday, it'll be gone by Friday, even though they felt like they were going to die in between. So air constitution is a really very flighty element, and helping the client understand what their body is prone to is the first marker that I think is relevant in these feet. Marker number 2 are the deep lines, and so let's circle those. So what you notice in terms of the deep lines, and notice how I say deep lines as opposed to lines, because these deep lines look like they are literally scratch marks, like somebody has scraped away the tissue, which is something that I don't see on a regular basis. So this was something I really wanted to point out for you guys because it's super relevant. So we can see that the scratch marks on the right side are very much those deep line gashes in horizontal zone 5 of the heel, which represents the right lower body. Also, past sense of security. So in addition to right leg weakness, right knee weakness, right sciatic nerve weakness, there's also this feeling of this person was cut at their root, which is not the most pleasant of markers to see. We knew that there was going to be stress. We didn't know that it would be like, if you literally imagine just claw marks on their sense of security and how they were moving forward, like that's very much what the feet are telling us, which is a powerful marker to see right off the bat. But what's interesting is that we don't necessarily see those deep lines on the left foot. You can see them a little bit higher in horizontal zone 4, but in terms of horizontal zone 5 on the heel, they've faded. So the stressor has shifted. And this is also a common theme. The person has started to recover from the stress, period. So that's a good thing. But that doesn't mean that the stress never existed. The body is definitely holding on to it. And it's very, very present. It's kind of working its way through the body. So what you can see here is almost a compensation pattern. So right side leg got weak, but maybe horizontal zone 4 is a little bit stronger on the right side, but that left kind of low back pelvis has started to get really weak in zone 4, but then the left zone 5, that leg has started to get, strong again. So there's this kind of tossing back and forth of weakness that's happening in the lower body. Also tossing back and forth of weakness, support in between sense of security and somebody's family and relationships with this person. So that waffling of support, security, and the support system is definitely part of that stressor, and that's really marker 2. Okay, marker 3 are the other lines. So here we can see just a lot of lineage. We're going to talk about some of the other lines that some of the FROC members pointed out, but these are really, when you think of pinpointing a marker, please, please, please notice what catches your eye. Notice what is most prevalent to you. Notice what catches your attention. Notice what is most dramatic, because that's what the body is really trying to say is a red flag. So here we see a lot of lining happening in zone 3, zone 4 in the arch, which is all digestive space. And air constitutions are naturally really flighty with their digestive systems. Like their stomach and lower GI tends to be pretty temperamental. 1 minute it's hot, 1 minute it's cold, all that stuff. They tend to have really irregular eating patterns. Skipping meals is really common for the air constitution. Like a lot of GI issues just because of unpredictability. And so the lines are definitely reflecting that. The stress has probably caused some of that, but really this is pretty much an ongoing theme with the constitutional element of air. So just noticing that some of this stress may be exacerbated by just the digestive system fatigue and the tanks running on empty, basically. So that's marker number 3. Also, when we think of horizontal zone 3 as being our center of career and actions, their day-to-day activities are definitely draining them more than they're fulfilling them, as well as family and relationships. Maybe they feel more obligated to spend time with people than they actually want to spend time with people. So all different things that we could associate with this particular marker, but the general feeling of fatigue, weakness, and exhaustion is very, very present. Okay. So what didn't make the cut in these feet that some of my students kind of pointed out in the group, first is this birthmark right here. As far as birthmarks go, we've covered them in other videos. Yes, they are a prevalent marker. This one, not so much. And here's why. So the birthmark is faded. It's not as strong. It's a little bit weaker. But also there's it's right over the bladder reflex, and I'm not seeing a lot of redness. I'm not seeing a lot of puffiness. Yes, there's weakness. It could be a sign of pelvic collapse. It could be a sign of multiple things, but it's just not strong. I'd like to see it darker. I'd like to see it bigger. I'd like to see it kind of participating a little bit more. And the methods of balancing that I'm going to suggest will help offset any bladder weakness. So it's not like this marker is technically relevant, because what I'm going to suggest that they do to take care of the other markers will also help this marker. And it's not being loud enough for me to actually consider it as part of my top 3. Then these horizontal zone 2 lines. This is a good pickup, but the reason why I didn't mention these in the top 3 is because we already know that there's a history of emotional distress. We saw that in the bunion on the left side. We know that this person has been through a lot. We know that they've been feeling really exhausted. But notice again how the lines are shifting. They're much deeper on that right foot pass, that right side versus the present, the left side. So the body is moving through the cycle of stress, but at the same time, it's not deep enough, not relevant enough for me to really kind of mention it as a marker like, yes, you're stressed, so what? The methods of balancing will also cover any sort of muscle weakness or respiratory fatigue that may be associated with this marker as well. And we'll talk about that when we get into methods of balancing. So not really part of my top 3. Okay, so on that note, let's talk about some methods of balancing, some MOB. First and foremost, proper nourishment. So this is really the big thing that I say with all air constitutions. They have this really bad tendency of not taking care of themselves because they just get so swept up in the moment. Not only that, but their body isn't prone to holding on to calories like the earth and water constitution. So when you're dealing with an air constitution, even this one, air with kind of slight tinge of fire, like the metabolism is going to be really fast. So during times of stress or high energy consumption, calories need to be doubled, if not tripled. So this person obviously has been slacking on their dietary habits, really needs to up the nourishment and increase the calories. This has no relevance in terms of if you're vegan, carnivore, vegetarian, paleo, like I don't care. The calories just need to be upped, increased, and regulated. And we'll talk about that as far as the third method of balancing as well. So proper nourishment, fuel in the tank, as well as when somebody is dealing with emotional stress. What's the first thing that you think of when somebody is sick or feeling under the weather, both physically or emotionally, is soup, specifically like chicken soup. So that would be an excellent kind of soul food type thing to integrate to really stick some fat back on the bones and to get some fuel in the tank so this person can process their stuff appropriately. Okay. Method of balancing number 2 is going to be stress reduction. Why isn't stress reduction number 1? Because the tank is running on empty. And it doesn't matter how much meditation you do, if your tank is on empty, then the meditation will still be circumventing the fact that you're not nourishing the body. So we need to nourish the body first, and then we need to chillax. So stress reduction, meditation, maybe some journaling, some really gentle kind of therapeutic yoga, anything to really get the emotions up and out, to really reflect, dive deep, and process everything that's been happening that's obviously still stuck in the tissues, but moving, just to help it along a little bit. We need to put some fuel in the tank and then 1-2 punch it with some serious stress reduction to really zen out for a minute and let the body come to grips and the nervous system to unwind. Then we are going to cap it all off with this idea of developing a therapeutic routine. This is the bane of the air constitution's existence because they tend to be very flighty by nature. They tend to be very inspired, very all over the place, very much kind of flitting from breeze to breeze, flower to flower, that sort of thing. So getting them to nail down a specific routine is a little bit more on the difficult side because they tend to, 1, spend more energy than they consume, but 2, they never really know where they're going to end up at any given moment. Schedules are very loose with the air constitution versus like the earth and water constitutions that tend to be more predictable, a little bit more regimen oriented, both for self-care purposes as well as for kind of getting stuck in a rut. Air constitutions tend to be the exact opposite. So making sure that, back to number 1, proper nourishment, they're getting 3 square meals a day. Those 3 square meals are also really rich in nutrients and good fats. Then also stress reduction. They're budgeting for those times where they can literally lock themselves in a dark, quiet room to decompress. And then developing a routine in terms of waking up same time, going to bed same time, really making sure that everything is on a predictable schedule so that the body can get into a calorie burning routine, as opposed to going into that fight or flight mode and wondering where its next meal is going to come from. And then before they know it, the nervous system is crashing and burning, and that serves no one because they're still in a stress pattern. So that's a lot. I know, trust me, I get it. But those are my top 3 markers and top 3 methods to balance those markers. And then our 2 things like the birthmark as well as the emotional stress lines and the chest, lung, respiratory lines. Those will go away based on just the fact that we're nourishing, reducing stress, and then, taking time for ourselves from that standpoint. So those are our methods of balancing. And that is pretty much it. So that is the foot reading video. For those of you who are watching from the FROC group, let me know how you did. Comment, let me know kind of questions that you have. We'll talk about it. No worries. For those of you that have not already subscribed, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Lots of cool stuff happening here. After the holidays, I'll be getting back into the webinar routine. We're doing a lot of live stream webinar events and teaching you about reflexology and foot reading. Also, join the Facebook group if you're not already a member of it. That is the FROC group, F-R-R-O-C, the Foot Reading and Reflexology online community group on Facebook. Lots of fun stuff happening there, like the challenge that this video is based off of. Buy the book if you haven't picked up a foot reading book before, or maybe you've heard of Chris Stormer, James Sheehan, Imre Samoji. Those are really big names in the foot reading space. My book is up there too. It's Foot Reading, a Reflexology Primer on Foot Assessment by Sam Bellier. And that's a good book if I do say so myself. Then last but not least, if you are interested in becoming a certified foot reading practitioner, we have the online program that is available until the end of this year, 2017. It'll be relaunching the 12-week boot camp version in August of 2018. And then January 1st, 2019 will be the next 12-month certification enrollment. So if you're interested in maybe studying online with me, now is the time over the next couple days, or just stalk me on social media and we'll talk about it from that standpoint as far as launch dates. So just stuff to think about. That is it for this video. I hope that you have enjoyed it. Let's just flip around the screen real quick. And we'll Okay, cool. I hope that you enjoyed the video. Make sure to like, share, subscribe. Let me know what you'd like to see next. Let me know if you'd like to send in your feet. You can always send them into sam@footwhisperer.com and we'll chat. We'll go back and forth. And then maybe if you'd like, you can donate your feet to science and I'll share it in a video like this one. But until then, I will talk to y'all later. Have a fantastic rest of your holidays. Or if you're watching this video a little bit later, not so much holidays, but maybe the rest of your week and weekends. I will see you soon.